Hope you all are doing good at home. Today, in the physics session, we will be starting with the new lesson. We all know what is energy. It is the capacity to do work. Energy is the capacity to do work. We also know that children, energy comes in the different forms and it can be converted from one form to another form. For example, if we light a candle, the chemical energy in the wax is converted into heat and light energy. You can see the picture on the slide. You also know about the potential and the kinetic energy. You can see the picture there. If the water is stored, it is the potential energy, and if the water is flowing, it is the kinetic energy. So if the water stored in an overhead tank is released through the tap, children, here the potential energy is converted into kinetic energy. Now we shall consider an example. Let us take some water in the tumbler, which is little warm. If you keep that water at room temperature, what will happen after some time? Obviously, the water cools. Yes, no, the water will cool gradually. Why the water cools gradually? Because the hot molecules of the water gets escaped into the environment or the atmosphere. Hence, the water gets cooled. Can you collect back the heat energy lost in the atmosphere, children? The answer is obviously no. You cannot. So children, how to choose the energy or the source of energy? Just now we studied the example where the energy got dissipated. So we should choose the source of energy that is usable, but it cannot be used again. Such source of energy cannot be used again. But we are searching the source of energy which can be used again and again for our purposes. Let us see further which are they. In daily life, children, we all need energy to do work. If you don't have food, then you feel weak. Your body will lose energy. You feel strengthless. That is the reason in order to get energy to your body, we will have food. Similarly, which are the other naturally available sources means sun, wind, water. All these are the different sources of energy. You can see the picture of water there, the sun and the wind energy. So how to choose this source of energy has some criteria. What are the criteria that we should keep in mind in order to choose such source matters, children? We need, for example, we need chemical energy in order to cook the food. In the olden days, our grandparents used to use charcoal for cooking the food. The use of charcoal produces more heat, and after it is burnt, it is converted into ashes. So this is causing air pollution. So obviously now we are search for some alternate source of energy which is not creating any pollution, nor it used to take more time for cooking food. So that source of energy they dropped and they started searching for some alternate source. Also, this chemical energy, where else we need? To run the vehicles. Yes, no chemical energy is required to run the vehicles as well. Why do we need muscular energy? It is used to carry out our daily work. Where do we use electrical energy? Electrical energy is almost used to run various electrical appliances, children. It is very much important in our daily life. So, we have various forms of energy in our, which is easily available to us. But children, how to choose or how to select the energy source needed is the problem. So that not only using the source but how to reuse the obtained form is the matter here. So the source of energy we choose should have some criteria. So let us know in the further points which are the criteria we should adopt in order to um, have a good source of energy, children. In the slide, you can see those points. The source of energy we choose, it should be easily accessible. It should be easy to store and transport. I gave you an example of cooking the food with the help of charcoal, children. So they find it out that using hydrogen, the food can be cooked, hydrogen gas. But the problem is hydrogen gas is not so easily available, as well as it catches fire easily. That is the disadvantage. So we should choose a source of energy which is easily accessible and it is easy to store and transport as well. And we want to use less amount of source and large amount of work to be done. That is what we want. So we should choose a source which would do large amount of work. And most importantly, it should be economical. Yes, no, children? Even for the small amount of energy what we are using, if you want to pay in thousands or in lakhs, it is of no use. It should be economical so that all the people can easily afford it. So these are the few criteria we have to keep in mind in order to choose the source of energy. With this background, we shall now move on to the different conventional sources of energy, children. All these you have already studied in 8th and ninth classes. So what I want you all to do is please read the textbook of this lesson. You have various activities given in the textbook which are very interesting. Please go through it, children. That will help you in understanding the concept better. Next, we shall see the different conventional sources of energy in the next slide. You can see in the picture here the fossil fuels, oil, coal, oil, natural gas are the fossil fuels. And in the next picture, you can see how these fossil fuels formation takes place. See, first picture in the ocean over millions of years ago, you can see many aquatic plants here, children. The tiny sea plants and animals died and they were buried in the ocean floor. Over time, they were covered by layers of silt and sand. Even in the ocean, the sand and silt, that is the remains of plants and animals over millions of years ago, the remains were buried deeper and deeper, and enormous amount of heat and pressure turned them into oil and gas. So today we will drill down through the layers of sand, silt and rock to reach the rock formation that contain oil and gas deposits. So this takes years and years of time in order to form, children, in order to form the fossil fuels, but we people are using it in very faster rate that it will soon become, we may go loss of energy. Here in the third picture, you can see, children, you have the same picture in your textbook as well. You can go through it. What are the amount of fossil fuels available that is shown through the help of pie chart here? Coal, petroleum and natural gas, hydro power, that is the water energy, hydro energy, nuclear energy, wind energy, the availability of various sources of energy are shown here in the third picture with the help of pie chart, children. You can go through it. So the fossil fuels, children, are obtained. We understood that it is obtained. It takes millions of years for its formation. They are very limited sources of, it is a very limited source of energy. It is a non-renewable source of energy, and hence it is very, very important to conserve them. We all know that all of us have vehicles, and we are consuming fuel in a very alarming rate, that is very fast rate. So we will soon run out of the energy, children. In order to avoid, what we should do is find an alternate source of energy. If we find some alternate source of energy to the fossil fuels, then even if we go loss of energy of this energy, then we can depend on that alternate source. But still the research is going on, and already we have the electric cars, the solar energy vehicles is being introduced in the market, children. But in the ancient times, wood was the most common source of the heat energy. They used to burn the big logs of wood in order to generate the heat. So the heat generated, what would happen? The steam would produce, and the steam wood was used to run the turbine, and the turbine was in turn connected to the dynamo here in the activity given, children. So by like this, the electricity was produced. But in order to heat the energy, the large amount of wooden logs were heated, children. So the water used to get heated and the steam used to be produced. The steam so produced were in turn used to rotate the turbines. But the exploitation of coal as a source of energy made the industrial revolution possible. But the increasing industrialization has also led our life in a better way. We are able to lead the life, a quality life we are able to lead, children. But it has also caused the global demand for energy to grow at a tremendous rate. So our demands are increasing day by day, but our technologies are also developed and it is improving. But using these source of energy is very fast. The use of these source of energy are very fast, children. So in order to avoid this, alternate source of energy were explored. But burning of fossil fuels had also other disadvantages as well. Which are they? You have learned in the class 9, children. So the burning of fossil fuels generates so much heat that it may lead to the acid rain, which affects the fertile lands also. The agricultural land will be affected, and also the people would be affected. So in addition to this, we also may face the air pollution and greenhouse effect by release of gases like carbon dioxide. All this will take place, children. The pollution caused by these burning fuels can be somewhat reduced by how? By increasing the combustion process, by using from some techniques which would help us to avoid the smoke getting released into the atmosphere and mixed with the pure air. All that can be done, children. But here in the textbook, they have given an interesting activity, children, to generate your own electricity, that is activity 4.3. If you have a look at that activity 4.3, there they have used a pressure cooker. The pressure cooker is filled with water, and through the knob, the whistle knob will be there. Now there the steam pipe is connected. So they took a tennis ball, they made a hole and fixed the fan blades. With metal sheets they fixed it, and in turn it is connected to a dynamo and hence the electric bulb. So what happens is, when you heat the pressure cooker, children, the water starts boiling. When the water boils, the steam is produced. So the steam produced in turn is made to fall on the turbine what you have created, that is the tennis ball which is fitted with the metal sheets. So the pressure of the steam in turn makes that ball or the blades of the fan to rotate, and that rotation, the blade that is connected to the dynamo, and hence to the rotation with the help of dynamo, the bulb will glow, and hence you can generate the electricity. But this is for the example for the small scale production of electricity. But to produce in the large scale, what has to be done is the question. And that is done by the thermal power plant and hydro power plants. Let us now study what are these thermal power plants and hydro power plants. Next, children, we shall learn about the thermal power plants. What are these thermal power plants? Why do they got this name? Is the thing which we will understand now. Thermal means heat. So therma means heat. The heat is generated here. How the heat is generated means, in order to generate the heat, large amount of fossil fuels are burned, children. You can see in the picture that large amount of fossil fuels are burnt in the power station, and the heat energy in turn is used in order to heat the water. So the water on exposing to continuous heat will be converted into steam. It will produce the steam. So the steam is it is used further in order to rotate the turbines, and the turbine will be in turn connected to the generator, and hence it generates the electricity. So the transmission of electricity is more efficient than transporting coal or petroleum over the same distance. Yes, no, the electricity nowadays we can see the electricity which is received at our house are through the cable, the wires. Yes, no, so that means in place of transporting the coal or petroleum over the long distances, these thermal power plants are set up, which in turn transfers the electricity. So the thermal power plant is used since fuel is burned to produce the heat energy, which is then converted into the electrical energy, children. So this is a simple way of working of this thermal power plants. In order to understand in the better way, in your class group, I am sending the animated video of this working of thermal power plant, children. You can go through it and read the textbook as well. After studying about the thermal power plants, next we have about the hydro power plants. Here the word hydro itself make us understand that it is water. It is the water power plants. It is the hydro power plants are one of the traditional source of energy, children. We have studied about the concept of potential energy and kinetic energy with the example of water stored in a tank. The water stored in a tank is the potential energy. If you release the water with the help of tank, the potential energy of the water, now flowing water, it is in the form of kinetic energy. The same concept we can apply here in order to understand this. What happened in case of this hydropower plant means, this hydropower plant will convert the potential energy of the falling water into electricity. But in our country, there are only few waterfalls. So, in order to keep the turbines under the waterfall, so for the height from the height, the water will falls with a high force on this turbine, which in turn rotates the turbine, and hence the electricity is generated. But we have a very large number of waterfalls. So, what alternate method they find it is, they started building the large dams of water. The dams were built so that whenever it rains, the water can be stored, like rainwater harvesting, children. The water will be stored in those dams. So nowadays in our country, the large amount of current electricity what we are receiving are from these hydropower plants, children. So in order to produce this electricity by the dams that are constructed on the rivers, the water coming is being stored in those dams or the reservoirs. The waters are stored, and extra flowing of water is being avoided by building these large reservoirs in order to store the water. The water level rises, and in this process the kinetic energy of the flowing water gets transformed into potential energy. So now the stored energy, the water what we have in the reservoirs, is in the form of potential energy, children. So the water from the high level in the dam is carried through pipes to the turbine at the bottom of the dam. Since the water in the reservoirs would be refilled each time when it rains, we can say that it is a renewable source of energy. Every time it rains, naturally the water will be filling in the reservoirs, and hence it is stored. Whenever we make the water to flow, of course it generates the turbines, and hence the electricity is generated. But it also has disadvantages, children. So we are having good rain, so water can be stored, and hence using hydroelectric generator we can produce the electricity. What disadvantage could be there, we may think. But the construction of big dams itself has certain problems, children. Why? Because the construction of dams require very large area for its construction. So maybe we have to search for the search for the barren lands where the land which is infertile, which is not fit to order the crops only, we should search. Or the dams can be constructed preferably in the highly terrains. So it is which is very difficult. So the large areas of agricultural land and human habitation has to be disturbed in order to build those dams. So the construction of these dams may also affect the ecosystem, and if the vegetation is submerged under the anaerobic conditions, children, then it gives rise to large amount of methane, which is again results in the greenhouse gas, which is again a greenhouse gas and results in greenhouse effect. So these are the few advantages which we come across in case of hydropower plant as well. Look, we now studied about the thermal power plant and hydropower plant, but both had advantage as well as disadvantages, children. Thermal power plant means see, we have to burn large amount of fossil fuels which are non-renewable sources, and burning of coal may cause air pollution. And hence those are the disadvantages there. When it comes to hydropower plant, though the rainwater is available and it is a renewable source of energy, but still constructions of these large dams or reservoirs are very difficult. It will affect the habitation of people, and many agricultural lands has to be used in order to build these dams, children. So these are the disadvantages with respect to the hydropower plants. So whatever new source of energy we are finding out, children, it has a disadvantage at some point. So this is about the thermal power plant and hydropower plant. So we are in need to find some more alternate sources of energy in order to meet our requirement. So next we shall be discussing in the next session improvements in technology for using these conventional sources of energy. Thank you, children.